Hello and welcome to the Turn 4 podcast. I am your host, Dan Maldonado. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. This podcast comes from two lifelong fans of IndyCar and motorsports. We are not insiders, despite what my co-host will have you believe. So let me bring him in right now. Introduce you to my co-host, Tim Reiner. Hey, Timmy.
Hello, Dan.
How are you?
I am good this evening. Good to see you.
It's good.
I've seen a lot of you lately and talked a lot with you lately.
I know.
From Indy 500 to the Detroit Grand Prix, we've been hanging out a lot, which is, and it's been good. No issues, right?
It's been all right.
No issues at all. Been all right.
It's been good.
Yeah, but I think we are insiders. So I'm going to go with insiders. You're going to go not insiders, but it's some nice access this weekend.
Not insiders at all, as far as I'm concerned. We're still going to be outsiders for a little while. But we hit pretty good. Hey, I want to give a special shout out to Steps Towing and Heavy Transport out of Tampa, Florida. Steps has been family owned and operated since 1960. For all your towing and transport needs in West Central Florida, call Steps. Puts more information on Steps Towing in our show notes. Steps folks were very, very kind to us this week at Detroit, as were a lot of people. So I wanted to make sure that I give a special shout out. I was kind of surprised, Tim, weren't you, that the Grand Prix would use, or it's kind of like contracting, IndyCar kind of contracts with certain towing services and things for use around the country as they go in and put on these shows. That it wouldn't have been like a local.
Yeah, and they travel around with the show, if you will. But I think it makes sense that they have somebody, because that way they know the ins and outs and what to be doing and everything else on the program. So I think when you look at it from a consistency basis, which they've had the safety team forever, right? That travels with them, which is different from other series. So I think they sort of carry that into the towing side of it, and I think it just makes for a smooth operation for the weekend and getting vehicles off the track. However, we didn't see a yellow.
We did not. So the folks at Steps just got to enjoy themselves a great race from a wonderful vantage point.
Yes, totally wonderful. So, if you want to see what it was, check out our Instagram page.
Our Instagram, yeah.
There's a video.
Yeah. So I do always say that we're not insiders, but obviously this past weekend in Detroit, we had an opportunity to be insiders because the Grand Prix folks here in Detroit granted us media passes for the weekend. So we got to pretend to be insiders for a few days, which was a lot of fun. I had a great time. I really did. We got to say hi to a few people that we follow on Twitter and who, we reference on this show. A couple of people like Nathan Brown and Jenna Fryer of the AP. Kevin Lee from the broadcast. I got a chance to speak with him briefly on Thursday and, finally got a chance to speak with Hinch in person. I, of course, thanked him for being on our show. We had a great time with him, of course.
Yeah, everybody was super cordial and would talk with us. And we even spoke with Max Pappas, who was on the show before too, and thanked him and talked a little bit about what he was doing. And then Will Power, we had a brief conversation at the media luncheon with him, as well as Ricardo Juncos, who's the owner of Juncos Racing, Juncos Hollinger Racing. But we'll talk about our conversation a little bit later that we had with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good.
And we also stopped and talked to a engineer from Honda Performance Development, which was a great conversation. Gentleman out of New Zealand. We had a good chat with him. And then we also talked to somebody at IndyCar Tech Inspection, which I thought was fascinating conversation. Didn't you?
Yeah, that was very good. The technical inspection and how they do technical inspection, but they're also the guys that are on pit road during the race. They're basically the officials that are there and monitoring pit stops. And I think they have 2 stalls for each person. So we talked about that. And I think what kind of made us talk to that guy is he was laying down as the car went over him to check the bottom of the car. And he was using some magnets to find a couple holders underneath the vehicle. So it was interesting. And then you also talked to the Firestone techs as well about the tires and how many sets each team was going to get, which I think it was 10.
10 sets.
And then we talked to a lot of the people that were on the teams too. You look at Mclaughlin. We talked to a guy that was the body guy that was working on, the body kits that go on the cars and making sure that they were smooth and ready to go. We talked about Speedway Cars, which, they have 3 or 4 of those, versus the road course cars and street course cars that will ultimately be run at Iowa as well as Texas, right? The
Mhm.
Speedway cars are only for Indianapolis. So we gained some intel there. And we also talked with a young gentleman who was on Marcus Ericsson's pit crew.
Yeah, young
He
guy,
was,
super young guy, right? Redhead, very fair skin, needed to wear a lot of sunscreen.
yes, but he was the tire guy, and he was a guy that was obviously on the team for the Indy 500 win, and he was super excited about that. So we talked to a lot of folks. We saw a lot of people. Some people recognized us, which was good to see. So yeah, I think we're moving towards being insiders, even though we're not.
Yes, we are. Um, the young man that we spoke to from Scott McLaughlin's team, that's actually the kid I got mixed up there for a second. Scott McLaughlin's team, the young guy, he said he graduated out of the NASCAR Technical Academy or something out of Mooresville,
That is correct. Yes.
North Carolina, which I thought was pretty cool. And he ends up landing himself as a tire tech, right? The guy in charge of tires at Penske for Scott McLaughlin, which I think is a big deal. Tim, he was young. I myself, I don't think I have kids. He's probably the same age as my oldest kids.
Yeah, probably is, right? And you even told him that. You said, I'm old enough to be your father.
That's why I told him
But
wear
yeah, he was
sunscreen.
to-
Ooh.
Yeah. None of the tire techs wanted to go to rain tires. I'll tell you that. They were
No,
happy
that's for sure.
that it stayed dry, because I know it puts on a lot more work for them. And it was interesting to hear that the teams actually carry the rain tires around, where Firestone carries all the other tires around. But to take the load off of Firestone, the teams are doing that. But yeah,
couple of sets. Yeah, a couple of sets of the rain tires the teams have at their disposal.
Yeah.
And
it
sent them up.
It looked like it was threatening rain the whole race, but never came.
Yeah, dripped, right? There was just a couple of sprinkles here and there, but nothing substantive. Certainly nothing that would have necessitated moving to a wet weather race. So,
yeah.
I'll make a few observations that I wouldn't otherwise have a chance to make. To put on this event, I think you have something to underscore this with as well. It takes an army of volunteers. We were told that there's 1,000 volunteers, as well as full-time staff, that put on this show here in Detroit, which I imagine is the same situation that happens throughout the series and at all of the venues that they go to. I'm sure that there's a lot of volunteers that take place. These are folks that just don't show up. This is not just a 30, 60, or 90-day effort. This is a year-round effort. And then you spoke to someone at the Grand Prix that talked about what else they're doing. I mean, they're not just double hatting it, they're triple hatting it.
Yeah, I talked to one of the guys that puts on the show there, and he said they're also prepping for next year, right? Because they're moving. So they were preparing for Belle Isle, and it's being its last year, but they're also have a ton of work and effort going into next year. But they're also the folks that are working on Iowa. So they have a double header coming up in Iowa for that event that they're working on. So these are the folks that specifically work on the Detroit Grand Prix normally, and now they've been working on other stuff. So good for them, but I don't think there was an army of those folks that kind of work in for the Grand Prix itself.
Right. No, the army is the volunteers, definitely. The crew of full-time employees seemed skinny, so to speak, right? Like not a very robust group of folks. So, but yeah, it was interesting because he noted that he hasn't been to Iowa yet. So he's really just working with like site plans and blueprints, so to speak, as to where to put certain things and all that. So I guess the advantage there is that Iowa is a permanent course, right? It's an oval, it's a facility, whereas Detroit is temporary. Right after, I mean, you and I were walking out of there yesterday, late afternoon, they were already starting to tear that down, start turning it back into a state park again, which is what it is, 60 days a year. And
they have a strict timeline to bring that down and get it back to park settings so that the people of Detroit and the people of Michigan can enjoy Belle Isle.
Yeah. The other thing I'll note here is that these drivers always seem to be on the move. I saw them go into their driver meeting, come out of the driver meeting, and then spend about 30 minutes, maybe a little longer, 30 minutes in the media bullpen, standing around talking to different members of the media, just going from person to person or, being sort of surrounded by the media that was present there. Then they were off to engineering or, some like Kyle Kirkwood, it was to go change into the Vassar Sullivan fire suit before climbing into the GTD Lexus that he had to qualify on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I noticed them zipping all around race morning. I saw Roman Grosjean on his little scooter, and he was cruising through just the common area to get from one point to another. So
very busy.
They were on the go all the time.
Yeah. And also for me personally, humbling, right? Yes, humbling. Those that may think they know me or what have you don't think I have a bone of humility in my body. But, we talked a little bit about this, but for me, I feel like these drivers and team owners have questions posed to them by pros, and I'm just some dude with a podcast and higher than average curiosity and fandom about IndyCar. And, so being able to watch or sort of taking a step back and watching folks like Nathan Brown or Jenna Fryer ask questions and do that. So I kind of observed and learned, but as the weekend went on, I think I got a little bit more comfortable with talking to people. As I'll talk to people anywhere.
Absolutely.
But I'm always, in my own head in this particular case, because I just wanted to make sure that whatever it is that I asked was relevant and smart. Unlike the interviews that we've done, right? I didn't have a week or two to prepare and to talk them all out. It was kind of on the fly. So,
yeah, but
humbling
everybody was generous with their time. If you asked a question, they were going to answer it, and they were very cordial. And even the conversation that we had with Will Power at the media luncheon was really good. It was just a couple of questions, but he was more than happy to answer the questions and talk to us, and even recognized us later in the weekend and said, hello and things of that sort. So it's super easy. And there's a lot of people that just want to
I want to say this
about their job and what they do.
Yeah, seeing Will at that media luncheon, I have to say this, it's so funny. He had like the world's giant coffee mug with him, didn't he? Like he was drinking coffee out of this gigantic mug, this giant like Yeti mug with a handle on it. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, it was good.
Because all the other guys are all drinking water and with no label on it, but Will's got this giant Yeti cup he's probably drinking coffee out of, which I thought was cool.
I think he's got some fruit juice or something in there, something healthy and special.
I know.
If you look at coffee, those guys build. They're in such great fitness. It's amazing to see those guys and how fit they are. And you have to be, if you looked at, like today's or yesterday's race and what went on with yesterday's race, they went from start to finish, all green flag. I saw heart rates at the 165 mark was the average for the whole race. And that's almost 2 hours of your heart beating that fast. So these guys have to be in good shape. And so maybe in that drink is some magic, because he had the magic this weekend for sure.
Sure did.
So for me, there was a few things as well with Detroit. They're moving off of Belle Isle, as I mentioned earlier, but the fountain's, permanent on Belle Isle. So I'm going to miss the fountain. I think Will said it's one of the best podiums in the series. So I hope the Detroit Grand Prix, they do some Penske, they do something downtown to have something similar. So if anybody watched the post race with Will jumping in there with his whole team, his brother, the whole family, they all got in the fountain, which I heard it was cold.
Yeah,
which doesn't surprise me. They just turned it on. For those of you that don't know, they just turned it on that weekend. It was I think it was Friday. They had the ceremony to turn that fountain on because, here in Detroit, it gets cold and it freezes if you don't do that. So I'm curious to see how that plays out in downtown Detroit. The other thing I noticed, Dan, and you noticed, I think as well, the fans were able to get close to all the action, right? They could be in the paddock. It was open to everybody. So if you had general admission or you had VIP grandstand ticket holders, it didn't really matter. You had access to talk to anybody. And so that was good to see. Paddock was really, really busy.
Sure was.
But I'm assuming it was open because the flow, right? Just the way that track kind of lays out, the flow of people from one side of the track to the other side of the track, and getting to the fountain that I just talked about, so on and so forth. But if you were a fan and you were there, it was a great experience. The other thing on the fan side, it was sold out. Bud Denker had talked about that. President of Penske Corp mentioned it at the media luncheon, saying, hey, it was sold out. And so I went in and checked the website. I just wanted to see if it was really sold out. And what I saw was there was no grandstand seats to be had anymore. So that was Saturday and Sunday. If you recall, IMSA was there on Saturday. IndyCar was there on Sunday. You could still get a general admission pass, but the fans were there. They came out in droves. And it was great to see. Yeah, so I guess from my perspective, I'd like to give the fans a little bit of advice, and I'm giving this advice to myself as well. It's one of those things where, go up and talk to people when you're in there. If you have that kind of access, if there's a Honda engineer or a Chevy engineer or a technician sitting there, go talk to them. They're more than willing to tell you a story about what they're doing, how they got into it. The one you just mentioned earlier about the guy on Team Penske, that the tire guy, and how he got into it. But we talked to the crew members, the OEM engineers, technical inspection guys, like we mentioned, Firestone pit crew, I should say tire crew, and as you mentioned earlier, the tow truck guys. So it was a great weekend overall.
Really was.
Yep. So Dan, I think we should talk a little bit about Chevrolet and their drivability, because we got some very interesting information.
We did. So we have been talking on this podcast since the year began that there's kind of a resurgence with Chevy, not just Penske, but also Chevy. Chevy's drivability seems to be better, doing better there, giving the drivers a little bit more tools in the cockpit to work with, so to speak. But also what we were told over the weekend is that Chevy is also giving their teams some additional resources by way of vehicle dynamics, which was something that Honda has been doing over the years, but Chevy hadn't been doing. So that could be, and we could talk about this a little bit later on, but that could be the reason for some of these Chevy teams coming out of the gate much, much stronger than, we would have expected, a la somebody like AJ Foyt.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah.
So some great intel. So go out there and talk to the folks. They're more than happy to give you some time and share their story and even give you a little insight. So I think growing up and being younger, I wasn't as forward and out there just to talk to somebody and strike up a conversation and plant a few seeds, and they'll run with it, and you can sit there and listen for as long as you'd like.
Right. Good weekend.
Great weekend.
Big news dropped this weekend. It was confirmed that Kyle Kirkwood will be leaving AJ Foyt Racing at the end of the season to rejoin Andretti Autosport. He will pilot the number 27, assuming that will continue to be branded Napa and AutoNation. That means Alex Rossi will be on the move as well. Rossi will be moving to Arrow McLaren to partner with, for sure, Pato O'Ward, as Felix Rosenquist's future with the team remains TBD. As such, no car number was announced, nor was a sponsor announced specifically. However, Taylor Kyle, who's the president of Arrow McLaren, mentioned that they're very strong from a commercial basis, which I read that to mean there's no need for additional sponsors. They have the budget in place that they need to do this. How do you feel about that?
I really like the move, but I want to talk about, you were at the press conference live.
Yeah.
You were there with the team and getting the intel and getting everything. I like the move, with even Kyle Kirkwood going back to Andretti Autosport. And I know he was still part of that organization. They sort of loaned him out to AJ Foyt because they didn't have a place for him. And he's shown his talent there. I think he's going to do really well over at Honda, Andretti over Andretti Autosport. And for Rossi, I think his demeanor totally fits the Arrow McLaren team. I think it's like a perfect match.
Yeah.
And I think it was time for a change. I think most people would say the same thing. It was time for a change for him. I know
I would agree.
A lot of rumors he was going to Chip Ganassi Racing, and that's where he'd land because he's a Honda guy. But switching manufacturers, a little bit of a surprise. I think it was a little bit of a surprise to everyone. But I think for the last 2-3 weeks, people kind of knew what was going on. And I think you even mentioned, the one video that Pato had put out there where
the TikTok.
Yes, Rossi, which Andretti or Arrow McLaren, and then I think it's good. He's gonna look good in that Arrow Mclaren suit, and I think he'll fit that role really well.
Do you think he gets a win at Andretti before he leaves? He was strong yesterday. Super strong yesterday. Think so? I think so too. Yeah, I think so too.
And if he gets one, I think he's going to get multiple. I think it's one of those things where once you get on that streak, it's hard to be kicked off that streak. So he was second yesterday, as we all know.
Can I give you one of these, Tim?
Yeah, I
Nope.
know you don't believe that,
No,
but
I think he's going to
if
get
you get
one
on a
win.
little bit of a run, I've seen it in the past. So if you get on a run, you go. And so if he can pull it out here at Road America, which is coming up next weekend, um, based on the energy and what they did this past weekend over at Detroit, yeah, I see more than if he gets one, I think it's two. There you go, or
Okay.
it's nothing, two or nothing. That's what I'm going
There
with.
you go.
2-0.
Okay. Love it. Wow. Also, some other news floating around was Alex Palou might be someone Arrow McLaren is interested in securing as their third driver. Like I mentioned, Felix Rosenquist's services are not complete yet. We don't know what's happening there. I don't know what Palou's contract situation is with Ganassi. He wouldn't engage on that when asked several times during the media bullpen session, which I spent most of my time watching Alex answer questions, which was fascinating. But honestly, Tim, to you, why would he leave Ganassi? Right? Hold on.
But
Even if to leave for a team like Arrow McLaren, I wouldn't. Here's why. I want to hear your point, but I got to make this first. There is a promise of greatness to come at Arrow McLaren, maybe. But he's already had a great team, and he's already won the championship. And Scott has 6.
I think the team is actually going to move to greatness, and they will be the top tier team. That would not be enough for me to move. You're on the top tier team currently. I would stay there. I would do what I'm doing. I think it was a little bit of a surprise that he won the championship last year and how good he was, and even how good he is from a consistency standpoint this year. I thought there was going to be a deep fall off, and there's not. I think he's fourth in the points, 14 points out of the lead. He's going to be there, and Chip Ganassi has shown that they have the strength. They've got the strength not only at a lot of the courses, but we saw at Indy, they were the top tier team altogether. So the only thing that I'll ever mention about Arrow McLaren and why you might want to go, if you got this F1 dream and you think you can get into McLaren, you can get through McLaren over to F1, then maybe you jump at it. But
I don't think he's interested in going to F1.
We had an interview on here where I heard a guy jump teams, and he was on one of the teams that was developing engines and chassis and things of that sort, and moved over, and he sort of went to the top team or one of the top teams, and it kind of fell through. So if you're there, I would stay there and do my thing. The funny thing is, we talked to his father. His father wouldn't give up any information either.
Yeah, nothing.
But he was very cordial and friendly with us.
He was very nice. Yeah,
he was very nice.
Yeah. You asked me about Daniel Ricciardo before we kick this episode off. Think about Ricciardo leaving Red Bull. He went to Renault.
Yep.
Then now he's at McLaren.
Correct.
And if you read what all of the F1, know-it-alls say, his career's over.
Yep.
Was he chasing money? Probably not, but he might have been gambling, right? On looking at how people were going to take off or looking at how teams were going to elevate. To me, it's kind of the same thing here. It's the same team, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Chip Ganassi's a proven winner, year in and year out. Has been for decades, right? Is it the number 2 team to Penske? I don't know. They've done pretty well, right? Or is Penske the number 2 team to Ganassi? That's really how it goes, right? Mm-hmm. So why leave? So if Arrow McLaren gets it together and starts winning races, it's not like Alex is going to be behind at Ganassi. He'll never be behind at Ganassi. He'll always have something in the car and in that shop that can take it to Arrow, that can take it to Penske.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
and he's been the leader on the team.
It feels that way, don't you feel?
Yeah,
it feels that way.
Yeah. And maybe not in the pits and in the team environment, but on track, he's the leader. He's the guy that's up front all the time, even though Dixon finished third, as we know.
I'd be disappointed to see him. Yeah, I'd be disappointed to see him leave Ganassi. I really would. Now, I have no bone in this fight, right? But I would be disappointed to see Palou leave Ganassi for
Yeah,
Arrow.
but I guess we don't know what his ultimate goal is. Is it to go to F1?
I don't think it is. That's
I
not where
don't
he
know.
came from, right? He came here
Okay.
for a reason too. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, I think he's yeah. If he's not in there or dabbling in it by now, I don't think it's going to happen.
And you mentioned how mature
Honestly,
he was.
yeah,
With
I don't think it's going to
those that were
happen
asking
for
questions.
award either. And he hasn't won here yet. Prove something, right? When we lost JPM to Formula One, he was a winner and a champion. When we lost Sebastian Bourdais to Formula One, he was a winner and a champion. When we lost Alex Zanardi to Formula One, he was a winner and a champion.
Yeah.
Pato Award, great personality, great on social media.
Yeah. And he just signed that new deal. Wasn't it a 3-year deal with Arrow to stay there? So
Sure.
I don't know if that means, I don't know what the terms of the contract are, right? We're
Right.
not that far inside to know
Right.
what's going on with that. But I don't know if there's a chance to move to F1 if the seat does open, if it's in consideration. I'm assuming it is because you've talked openly about his desire to be there.
Yeah. Almost feels to me like Herta has a more direct line to that seat if it should open. And they will figure out a way to get the super license points.
Yeah, but they mentioned that Pato in his contract has rights to test as well. So I think it's very similar to what Herta's doing.
Yeah, but Herta's deal is more than just rights to test. He's going to test, like that's planned. He's a reserve, whatever it is, Friday, driver or whatever they call those in Formula One. Right. Yeah. So before we get into the IndyCar race by race review, we should talk about IMSA, right? I believe IMSA and IndyCar should do a lot, whatever they can, to coordinate their schedules, because I think there's a lot of overlap in this fan base. You and I see it with this particular show. We see it with the shows that we've done when we did the 24 Hours of Daytona. And, to me, I feel like IndyCar and IMSA should do everything they can to try to coordinate schedules. You agree?
I do. I just don't know if IMSA wants to play second fiddle to IndyCar. So I think that's the biggest issue with having the seasons really marry up and have a lot of them happen, even though they'll be going to the same circuits. For example, Mid-Ohio, Road America probably one as well that they'll be going to, but they're just going on different weekends. Right. I like, and from a preparation standpoint for the track, it's probably easier. Yeah. And I do like the idea of you have sellout on Saturday and you got sellout on Sunday, right? You got 2 days where the what do you want? The grandstands are packed and the campgrounds are full and what have you. So I wish it would happen all the time, but you got to remember IMSA is owned by NASCAR, right?
And NASCAR's not going to do any favors for IndyCar.
That is true.
Not at all.
So I guess you try to build another 2 or 3 of those races, or another 1, right? They got 2 right now, so if you get to 3 or you get to 4, that'd be really good. But as a fan and as a spectator, I'd love to see them always going together on the same weekend and doing their thing.
Yeah, me too. I love it. I love seeing those cars. So for this past weekend, they call it a sprint race in Detroit. It was just 2 hours, and there were just 2 classes. DPI, which is your top end of the field, and the GTD cars. The Cadillacs on the DPI side were fast right off the truck, though not dominant like we've seen elsewhere. The Cadillacs of Chip Ganassi Racing led both practices prior to qualifying, and it was Sebastian Bourdais who qualified the number 01 on pole. On the GTD side, the Lexus of Vassar Sullivan split the sessions with Team Korthoff Mercedes, with the Mercedes taking session 1 and the Lexus taking session 2. For qualifying, it remained with the Lexus taking pole with none other than Cal Kirkwood at the wheel. Yeah, that Cal Kirkwood. Yeah. So he's good. He is good. He is good. Yep.
Did you see his hand?
Yeah, it's a mess.
I know. Yeah. Was that an Indy incident? Is that?
No, I think that was a IMSA incident.
Okay.
Yeah. For the results, the 01 Cadillac of Chip Ganassi Racing with pilots Van der Zand and Bourdais take first. They were fast all weekend, so really not a surprise. They were followed by Jarvis and Bloomquist, who are the pilots for the Meyer-Shank Acura. Third place, Bamber and Lynn in the second Ganassi car, the 02, which has, of course, the best livery in the paddock.
That's the one you like, the maroon.
That's the one I love. Yep.
Which I would call purple, but that's just
I don't know
me.
why. If we could get some of our listeners here, some of our fans to chime in. Tim was trying to give me some sort of argument that maroon leans purple. So whatever, Tim.
It's got a purple tone to it.
No, it doesn't at all.
In my world, my universe.
So in the GTD class, Barnicoat and Kirkwood take first in the Vassar Sullivan Lexus. Second place, our friends at Heart of Racing, piloted by DeAngelis and Gunn. And Sellers and Snow in the Paul Miller Racing BMW round out the third place. Some of the drivers, including Sebastian Bourdais, were off to Le Mans. In fact, I think Sebastian was leaving directly from Detroit Metro Airport to head to France for the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So,
yeah, through Air France, it's right. It's direct flight. Anybody that wants to go to France, come to Detroit and go straight over.
Charles de Gaulle.
It's great to see him still there. So I'm glad you ran through the results and how they sort of played out. So, but yeah, Chip Ganassi and that Cadillac, they look strong. And I think the other thing about that race is it was kind of a two-stop strategy, versus a one-stop strategy. And fuel save was going on, and in order to make the win, and the other DPI was coming up from, I don't know, a lot of seconds back and closed it down to, I think, a second there at the end. So yeah, all good.
Yeah. So are you ready for the team by team IndyCar breakdown?
I think so. That's where we're at.
I think so.
In the show, unless you want to deviate and do something different.
I always want to deviate and do something different, but we're under a time crunch, and the people did not tune in for anything different. The Penske takes the win with Will Power.
It's
only fitting, right? Mm-hmm. It's Penske's track. It's Penske's series now, but it really is his track. He resurrected this race in Detroit.
It's Penske's hometown.
It is. That indeed it is. And Chevy's hometown as well.
Yeah.
So team needed this rebound. I know that might sound ridiculous for a team that won 3 races prior to the 500, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. They have been a freight train this year until Indy, when it came off the tracks. Are you trying to read my notes?
I'm trying to see your notes. Yeah.
Will Power. Yeah. Cause you're all the way in there for those, listening on the podcast.
My glasses don't work that well. I got to lean in to see everything.
First place, Will Power, first win of the season for Will in the final of the 3 Penske drivers to secure that win, as Mclaughlin and Newgarden have already taken wins this season. He did so with not only a strong car, but with a great strategy. He did need a little luck for that strategy to work out, and it worked. Everything fell in his favor. I want to mention that during the press conference, because we got to be insiders this weekend, during the press conference, Will spoke poignantly about his career. He kept, I keep calling him patient power, and others have noted a change in his demeanor. He said he said he doesn't care anymore. That doesn't mean he's riding around playing out a contract. It just means that there are no more super high highs and super low lows. He referenced that he's very accomplished in his career, and he can walk away satisfied, which I thought was very interesting, because there's some records within reach for Will Power. Mm-hmm. Talked that qualifying on pole is not everything. Right? Not qualifying on pole has taught him some things. Mm-hmm. So perhaps that's part of being a dad.
Perhaps.
No.
But he was nowhere close to pole.
He wasn't.
And still came out and won this race.
Correct. Great strategy. It worked.
Yeah, great strategy.
Yeah. He talked about being 40 now and his outlook for the next 20 years and how fast everything goes by. I think we're seeing a mature and introspective Will Power today, which I like a lot. One that could very well deliver a second series championship for Will Power.
Yeah, and you talk about there's no more super high highs and no more super low lows, but celebration was on.
Yeah, it was good. Well, it has to be, right? Yeah. I mean, it has to be.
And I'm curious about doesn't care anymore. I think it's just a carefree attitude going into it, right? Like, we're going to do everything we can in our powers to make the car as best as we can. and we're going to go out and play the strategy we think that'll work. And if it doesn't, we'll take what we can and move on to the next week. And it shows that having that sort of mentality has really paid off, because last year was a mess. And I think the year before was as well. It just, they were either winning or they were losing. And we talked about
bad luck. Yeah.
Yeah. So, given the chance to do what he's done so far, he comes out of Detroit and now he's in the points lead, which is great. He's
again
3 points over Marcus, but it goes to taking what you can get, not having the super lows like you talked about and the super highs. It's even keel and moving through, and even his demeanor around the track. He was stopping and signing autographs for fans and just being the guy, right? I think in his mind, like you said, he's accomplished what he needs to accomplish. And so therefore, let's go out and enjoy the experience. I have a new family. I'm enjoying that as well. And and so good for him. I'm happy for him. I'm glad he won. I'm glad Penske won the event. We talked about and joked about how Honda would love to take the event because it's in Chevy's backyard, but it wasn't to be. And even though they were getting tracked down at the end there by Rossi, Rossi didn't have enough. And Rossi in the
hold on, we're going to get to Rossi.
I know we're going to get there, but he was mentioning that maybe they should have pushed sooner.
Maybe.
But here's what I wanted to say about Will on that front is that he made the Reds work. He made them work over 20 laps because he had 20 laps to go.
But he had a huge lead over second place, so he could conserve the tires over that period of time to push when he needed to push, because Rossi still had to make up a huge deficit, right? More than a second a lap with 20 laps to go. So he needed to he had opportunity to sort of save those red tires. Yeah. Will, just kind of finish up Will here. He spoke in his press conference, his winners conference, that it's different than coming onto his career, right? He didn't say it, but I say it. He's in the twilight of his career, right? He's in the final years or whatever, final seasons of his career. So he doesn't have to push. He doesn't have to prove anything because he's not trying to get to that next contract necessarily, right? And I think that's where he's at, and I think that's starting to show. I like it. I think he's a great guy. I think he's going to be a great champion. I'd love to see him win another Indy 500, but there's something at Penske is just kind of preventing that. So,
did he come to the press conference in the wetsuit?
Yeah, a bunch of towels and the whole thing. Oh yeah, yeah,
awesome.
Newgarden fourth. Joseph started first, but went way too long on those alternate Firestones. He was essentially on Will's strategy last year, which would have worked if they had some yellow flags, but he didn't. Will, ironically, was on Joseph's strategy from last year.
Wow.
So
great observation.
Yeah, Joseph needed a yellow in the early part of that race. It didn't come. In fact, the yellow didn't fall at all, which I think was a surprise to all of us.
Well, Dan, he had a huge lead. We were watching it, right? And then all of a sudden, they were taking chunks out of that, and he was losing spot after spot after spot. To your point, he was on the Reds way too long, and the strategy just didn't work out. But a fourth place is still nothing to, throw an elbow at or shrug off. It's still a good result.
Yeah. I know I kept yelling at you while we were in our little vantage point there, watching the cars come by, that they're leaving him on too long. They're leaving him on too long.
Well, yeah, you were screaming, jumping up and down, telling them to get in.
What are they doing? What are they doing? Yeah, because Will was just coming right through, and so was Scott Dixon, because Scott Dixon was also on the black, on the.
He fell how many spots before he pitted? It was a lot.
Yeah, 4, it was a lot.
5?
You're right. Yeah. Scott McLaughlin, 19th. He had a drag race with Jack Harvey, but found himself on the dirty side of the track, got into the marbles, and had to take the runoff. Then tried to do the 180 to kind of bring himself back around. That didn't work. He had to abort that, and then he had to try to find reverse, which from the sound the car was making, it hates having a reverse gear, and it did not want to engage reverse at all. That effectively ended the race for Scott McLaughlin. So much promise to the start of this season for Scott, but now really 2 bad races in a row. I feel good that he can get it together, but he's now 10th in the standings hoping certainly for a strong rebound at Road America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he mentioned on Twitter it was just an off week for him, and they just didn't have it come together, which was a bummer, right?
Yeah.
But he'll rebound. He'll be good. He got his first win and all that good stuff, and he's in the hunt. So
Yep.
yep.
Andretti Autosport, very mixed results for Andretti at Detroit. I mean, second place, Alexander Rossi, which we mentioned. Colton Herta, I keep wanting to call him Brian Herta. Colton Herta, 8th. Roman Grosjean, 17th. Devlin DiFrancesco, 18th. Feast or famine. For as strong as Rossi looked, it was a surprise to me that the balance of these teammates did not have anything to come through this field. Alex did fall 1 lap short of being able to steal this one from Will. Will had to drive carefully on the alternates so he didn't destroy them. Alex, of course, did not have to drive careful, but I do believe that Brian Barnhart was holding him back a little bit on fuel consumption until about 5 to go, where he told him he had everything he needed. And that's where Alex went. And it was an inspired drive. It was really nice.
Yeah, the thought there was he was going to gain that those seconds back fairly quickly, and it held there for 5-10 laps or whatever it was. And then they turned up the wick and tried to get him, but just fell short, like you mentioned. And but he was really good at the press conference and sort of engaging with the press there and talking about his day. And a great showing for a weekend. You're announcing you're leaving the team.
Yeah.
You had mentioned earlier that weekend that he's been the fastest. We were sitting in the media center and like, hey, he's been so quick this weekend. He's going to watch out for Rossi. He may win this thing. And lo and behold, he almost did.
Yeah.
But yeah, great showing by him.
Yeah. Herta 8th, started 7th, finished 8th. Very quiet weekend for Colton. I'm surprised, actually. And I'm surprised only because I have Nashville as the backdrop. Given how strong he was at Nashville, you would expect another street course, very bumpy, that Colton would have been able to put something together for Detroit. Roman Grosjean kind of had a rough weekend. Finished 17th. He had a crash in qualifying. His crash wiped out final laps for Rossi and Dixon, who were on flyers. Would have changed the complexity of this race completely had Roman not hit the wall. He did kind of have the hip check right into the wall a little bit, and at least from what we were looking at on TV, it looks like maybe when he gunned it, he thought maybe he had saved it. Then it completely came apart for him, and then that second hit was much harder than the first hit.
Yeah, something broken on the left-hand side, probably half shaft or something like that. And then once you go into that corner, it's just going to spin it around and demolish that car.
DiFrancesco finishes 18th. He started 23rd. Didn't wreck or cause too much issue on track. But Tim, I got to ask you, right? I have to ask. Devlin's 24th in the championship. He's behind Jimmy Johnson, and he's behind Tony Kanaan, who's only raced one race. Is that okay? They let Hinch go to bring Devlin to IndyCar, where it was expected that this car would suit him better. Because remember, he did not exactly burn it up in Indy Lights. Good move by Andretti?
No, it's a horrible move. Horrific. And you look at Devlin, he's self-proclaimed that better suited his style. It wasn't like anybody in the industry was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great for him. It goes to show when you bring some cash to the game, you can get yourself a seat, and it hasn't paid off, and I don't think it's going to pay off. It's going to be a backfield runner for the rest of the season is my prediction, and there may be some few highs here and there, but overall it's just not quick in the car. And again, it's a very competitive series. I'm not saying he's horrible. I'm just saying you've got to be the best of the best to run up front in a series because you're running all the same chassis. So you don't have any advantage there. The engines are very well matched. Like we talked about, Chevy's done a much better job, it seems, this year with managing traction and all that good stuff, power to weight ratio and so on and so forth, and engine mapping here at some of the road and street courses. So he should be in the hunt, and it's just if you're behind Jimmy Johnson and Tony Kanaan, Tony ran how many races?
One.
Exactly.
Indy. He had a great run at Indy, but still, he just ran one race.
I get it, but
yeah,
when it's double points, that's all you need, and he's up there. And speaking of Tony, we saw
him in the media center,
yeah.
right? In the final 10 laps.
Yeah, and we
right?
were all sitting there going,
yeah.
Rossi's not going to catch him. It's
Yeah.
not going to happen. The announcers did a great job bringing the
Building
drama that they were coming and it was coming. And we're sitting there looking at each other like, it's a little too late.
Yeah.
I think that just goes with, watching the sport for many years. And obviously TK's ability to be in the sport for as many years and drive the car. So anyway, back to Devlin. Yeah, and Andretti Autosport, it's one of those things where you had one driver that was really good. The rest heard a okay day. At least he didn't put in the wall, right? It's normally for him, you're up there or you're cracking the car up a little bit. So to run 8th and get that finish is good. And then Grosjean and DeFrancesco just not there.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of that move.
So I don't know what happens to that seat next year. Is that
he'll be in that seat just fine. It won't be. That's not up for discussion. He'll be there.
It reminds me of
trundling around.
The other driver that
be
brought
using
over
that race,
using
that money,
right?
Zach Beach, yeah,
he was always in the back too. It was like one of those things where it just never, he just had a few spots here.
Super nice guy. Brought that sponsorship to IndyCar.
I know.
Yeah.
Which got him that ride, and he was in the series 3-4 years. I don't recall.
And they tried everything they could to get him up to speed and to get him comfortable in IndyCar, and it just wasn't to be. He's run, I believe, in some IMSA races.
Oh, has he? Okay.
Power steering, ABS brakes, traction control.
Well, he's a little dude. I was, as you were talking, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about the sandwiches at the media center at the same time, and I was thinking from a standpoint of, I just think he needed to be a little bit bigger. Upper
body strength, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a challenge for Zach Beach. Yeah. So, Ganassi, 3rd place for Dixon. I want to talk about a couple of situations during qualifying. First, Marcus noted a quote teammate holding him up in qualifying. So I think that's interesting that the Indy 500 champ would publicly throw shade like this. We know that it was Dixon in hindsight. And actually Dixon the following day did come out to say that, he was being held up and it probably ruined his teammate's lap. So Dixon did own up to it. Good for Dixon.
And that just tells me they're talking within the team and having discussions about what happened on the track, and they're cordial and they understand and are moving on from it.
Yep. Second, Dixon again with the frustrations, right? He mentions the short sessions, but indicated that his lap was thrown away due to Grosjean's red flag. Dixie's normally a cool dude, and we've seen, the Iceman for 20 years.
That's why he's the Iceman. He's a cool dude.
Right.
That's why he got the nickname, right?
Right. But what's going on with Dixon this year? Tim, any thoughts?
I think he's just frustrated, right? I think he wants to be the team leader. He wants to be up front. He's used to being up front. And when you are no longer up front anymore, you're trying to process it as a driver. And to be a driver and to be in a position that you are in, you're very, very competitive. And so when there's a fall off and you don't believe that you're attributing to the fall off, like something else is going on, or then you're asking questions. And he has the right. He's been around the series forever. He's 7-time champion, 6-time champion.
7.
And
or 6, you're right. Yeah. Jimmy's 7.
Yeah. And also an Indy 500 champion, which I don't want to talk about what happened 2 weeks ago. So
neither does he.
Yeah. So yeah.
3rd place for Dixon. Great finish at a track that he likes. He got caught out when Grosjean had his qualifying wreck, as I mentioned. He was on a run to be in the Fast 6. Who knows how that would have changed things for him. He started on the Firestone primaries like Will did, by the way, but they pitted sooner and had to save fuel in that second stint, which probably put him out of this hunt that otherwise I'm certain we would have seen Dixie more aggressively with Rossi as Rossi was
Yep.
hunting down Will.
And we saw that his car was even banged up on the left-hand side, right? The under tray was all
Yeah.
torn up.
Yep.
And I think that was an incident going into turn 1, 2, 3, the third turn, going down there. It
With
looks
who?
like there was some bumping going. I don't know. I
Yeah.
just saw, yeah. I'm not
So you
sure.
saw it better than I did because I was looking for it, but I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear them reference it. Alex Palou, 16th, started 18th, which is incredible. You know, when we spoke to his dad on pit lane, his dad mentioned that the team feels that they found something for the race. And I would suspect that I would tell you that they surely did find something.
He did, yeah.
Detroit is not an easy track to pass, and the bumps make it worse. So a great effort for Alex to pick up 12 positions on merit. And I say on merit because there wasn't enough attrition ahead of him that helped gain those 12 positions, and there were no yellows. So this wasn't fuel save. This wasn't, you know, lucky yellows or anything like that. It was all talent on merit.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
This kid is so good.
He is good.
So good. No wonder Arrow's trying to get him, right? He is so good, so consistent. He's drove through the field like you mentioned. So to your point, wow, great job.
Yep. Ericsson, 7th quality day for the Indy 500 champ. Started 8th, finished 7th. Probably needed some yellow to help with the strategy. Jimmy Johnson, 22nd. Starts and finishes 22nd.
Yeah, we watched them going down the front straight, which is the second front straight, if you will, not the start finish line. And every lap, you could see them just fading a little bit here and a fading
getting out of everybody's way.
Yeah, but Marcus 7th, that's not bad. You know,
okay.
I think I'd take that if I was him.
Sure.
Yep.
Arrow McLaren, Pato Award finishes 5th. Anecdotally, again, the most popular gear in amongst the fans. Same as it was at Indy and in your house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
yeah, no rhyme or reason. Everybody just had Pato stuff on it, Arrow McLaren. But as you mentioned, the gear is really good. You've done a nice job with
nice.
it.
Looks great. Yeah, it stands out. Pato Award finishes 5th, started and ended 5th. He talked about his strategy at the end of the race and said, you can't build your strategy on yellow flags. Interesting point. Don't know if that's true or not, but I see the point, I guess. The point really being, regardless of the strategy you think you have in hand, it's going to evolve based on what the track and what the race gives you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the rosé today in the little.
No, I don't have the rosé. I've got a nice water here, and I've got coffee. I'm a little tired today, Dan, that I'm trying to get through.
You're tired because that coffee cup isn't enough to fill a cavity, by the way.
Well, you know, some of us drink it at different rates. I know you're quite the consumer, and for those fans that don't know, every
20-ounce coffee right here.
Well,
for those on the YouTube.
Yeah, but everybody that you know, what listens to the show and watches the show, what you don't know is that Dan gets a coffee delivered during every show by his wonderful
sometimes
wife.
A refill.
And she's she's never on camera, so it must be just off to his right. I'm looking at him, and she just kind of comes in and delivers coffee for him.
She does. Yep.
How many pots a day?
Couple and a half.
Couple pots. Okay.
And a half.
Yeah. So where were we?
Rosenquist, 10th. Here's a guy who is always in the center of the silly season, has been so far, even during the presser to announce Alex's move to this team, to Arrow McLaren, Alex Rossi's move to Arrow McLaren. There were questions about the future of Felix. Even Elio Castro Neves, who sat in on the post-practice 1 presser, asked about Felix Rosenquist, which I thought was interesting. So super nice guy. I think the point there being nobody wants to see Felix get cast aside. Nonetheless, Felix gained 15 places as he started at the back of the field because of a penalty that stripped him of his 2 fastest laps. To me, that's huge. And if that doesn't fall into the pros column for Felix, I don't know what will.
Yeah, it's an outstanding run. Great run.
Yeah.
You know, so kudos to him and the team for being able to get that car where it was. So
yep.
I know we keep talking. I'm looking at the box score. I know we keep talking about there's no cautions. There's actually 1 caution left. It must have been the last one.
Yeah, because BK hit the wall.
Yes,
at the end
did hit the
there.
wall. Yeah.
Yep. Both Shank drivers were on the same strategy that Newgarden employed. They needed to go as long as they could on the alternates to start the race, hope for some yellow, hope it's not a strategy, and ride the primaries to a strong finish or victory. Simon Pagenaud, ninth place. By the time Pagenaud stopped for primaries, again, yelling at my dear friend and podcast partner, Timmy, saying that they're leaving him out there too long.
Not just yelling, but hitting and everything else.
Oh, yeah, because I'm a violent talker.
Yeah.
Just ask Oriol Servia and Tim Durham.
Oh, yeah, you
yeah.
punched
I know,
Oriol
I
Servia before
clubbed
he
him.
got into the pace car. He was
Yeah.
sitting there on the side of the track.
Probably thinking, who's this dude? Yeah. By the time,
you love his pants. I know it's getting off track, but you're like, look at his pants. Look how good his pants are. Like,
well, we're short men, so they look great on them. So we have to try to find things that fit us.
So you asked him the brand and everything else. I think.
No, I didn't. I was just scoping him out, like for a tag. Just didn't have the car. Pagenaud just didn't have the car to make his way back through the field. Unfortunately, Elio Castroneves' 25th electrical problem took Elio out of the race.
Yeah, he was out early. But that's a bummer. But they qualified really well. They were up there.
They did.
So give that team props for being there and doing their thing. You hate the electrical part of it.
Best qualifying Andretti affiliated team?
Oh, best. Yeah.
All right. I'm not looking at it, but I would venture to say probably.
I would think so. I could go down and look.
Yeah.
But I would, definitely.
Yeah. Coin. Sure. David Malukas 11th. Takuma Sato 13th. Here's a team that needed Indy for a reset. Sato was fast much of the time at the Speedway. Malukas was the highest placed rookie. That carried on into Detroit with a lot of positive momentum. Sato qualified on the front row with Newgarden again, but by staying on the Reds for so long that strategy was just out the window.
He was out of it.
Yeah, he was out of it early. Didn't you feel like he fell back?
Lap one, he was already passed by the two Meyer Shank cars.
Yeah.
So he was trailing at that point and then just never recovered. Malukas had the fastest lap of the race. Did you know that? So good for him. So they had the speed. It was just a matter of, putting it all together. So
he would get my vote for rookie of the race in Detroit. For what it's worth.
Very nice.
Ed Carpenter Racing, Daly started 13th, finished 12th. Neither of these Ed Carpenter Racing cars looked particularly strong over the course of the weekend. 15th or worse in practice 1 and 2 for both of them. While I don't put too much stock in practice, it's definitely translated to qualifying and essentially the race pace or lack thereof. Like I said, Daly finishes 12th, BK finishes 18th. I don't know what happened here. USA did show the wreck, and you mentioned they did have a yellow flag there in the last lap, kind of the last half lap, but didn't show what precipitated the wreck. But here's the deal. VK is often mentioned as a strong free agent for a number of teams. Over the weekend, we heard Ganassi and Arrow McLaren. I kind of agree that he is a potentially hot pick for a team. I say potential because here's the reality on the season. Here are his finishes this year. 6, 10, 13, 3, and then it's all downhill from there. 23rd, 33, and 16th. And he has wrecked a lot of cars this season.
Yes. Yeah.
Is he trying too hard, Tim? Is he trying to get that next contract?
Potentially. I don't know. I think it's just going through early stages of his career and trying to figure it out and taking the car just past the limit. So I think he's just trying to get everything he can out of that car and bring that team up to where he likes to perform, which is I would say at the front of the field. And the car's just not there every race is what I would say. And obviously Indy was just a rookie, I'm gonna say a rookie mistake. I know it's not his rookie year, but it was just a mistake on his part there. But I think it's just trying to get too much out of the car. You gotta take what the car can give you.
So I'll give you 2 points. The first one is it underscores and adds an exclamation point to what Will Power was saying. Earlier on your career, you're going to take more chances and you're going to do some things like that. Trying to get to that next contract. I think that's what Renus is doing. The second thing is, it's interesting to me that Renus's fall off the cliff the last three races, 23rd, 33rd, and 16th. But if you overlay that with Connor Daly, we're looking at 5th, 6th, and 13th. And I didn't get to it before we went on air, but I think Daly's the complete opposite. The first three races for Daly were a mess.
Yeah, so they're going opposite directions. One is improving very well and gelling with the team, which for Connor, it's his
There's
first
no
full
gelling
year.
with the team. They were both there last year, and you know what I mean?
But Connor wasn't there full time.
Right, but he was still there, and he's been around that team for a long time. There's no gelling here.
I think there's some gelling. I think there's gelling on street and road course.
No, they can't co-develop these cars for two different drivers, is what it looks like to me. We're going to give Connor everything he needs, and Connor's going to do well, and it's nothing that Renus needs. So then we'll give Renus what he needs, and we're going to move on with Renus, and it's nothing that Connor needs. That's what it looks like from where I sit.
No gelling. I don't think that's the case. I think they both get the same attention on that team, and they're going to get the same people looking at it and putting the setup together. So I don't.
I think they drive separate cars is really what I'm saying. I think they drive separate cars. So when the car is set up, a baseline setup comes to, something like St. Pete, it was a good setup for Renus, but it wasn't a great setup for Connor. And I think Connor drove through some things at Indy, both the GP and the 500, because he's experienced in doing that. That helped him out. And Renus, like you said, just brain fade and just got caught out by that second turn wind situation, which Will Power mentioned to us, right? How it wanted to manipulate the car. So that's where that is. But yeah, gelling, I'll give you gelling at Shank, and Shank seems to be gelling just fine, right? You got a full-time Elio Castroneves there this year, and you got a brand new Simon Pagenaud there.
Wasn't Ed Carpenter Racing still looking for engineers, and it was 2 weeks before the series was going to start the season and all that?
Oh, maybe. So, yeah, I don't remember.
So I think there is some gelling that's going on with engineers and things of that sort, because we thought it was going to be a huge debacle, and then Renus came out and did really well, and we're like, oh. But I think at the end of the day, whatever's happened on Renus' side is now happening on Daly's side, but I think they'll converge and come together. And
I think we're referring to AJ Foyt Racing. They were looking for engineers later.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Preparing, and we were prepared
for
a debacle there, and there's no debacle there really, which is kind of surprising to me. So
your theory works.
Maybe. I'm just soda pop salesman. What do I know? Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan. I wanted you to say it. What remains a familiar story is how this team seems so far off the mark during practice and qualifying. Practice 1, doesn't really matter who it is, 18th, 19th, and 20th. Practice 2, 18th, 20th, and 23rd. In qualifying, 19, 20, and 23rd. I keep saying it to me. What a mess. What a mess this thing continues to be. In fact, the smallest team on the grid by far, starting 17th with a fill-in driver who hasn't driven on a street course since Nashville last year. Yeah. I'll give Graham a little bit of credit. Graham, in his post-race, when he was taken out, driver error potentially in that second turn, Graham mentioned in his post-race that this has to be the lowest for his team. And I'm saying it. He didn't say it, but rock bottom, so to speak. Tim, we're not close enough to the situation to know really what's happening here, but this team is going to need to turn it around and do so quickly. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. We heard grumblings of culture and things of that sort within teams and how they perform and how you need to have the camaraderie, and you need to have a culture it's a culture that's driven on certain principles that get you in the front of the field. And not only the front of the field on race day, but during the qualifying sessions and practice sessions. And you can see by just what you named off, they're all horrific. It
was bad. This was the worst weekend for them. You would hope that they would get to, a road course, a very fast road course at Elkhart Lake next week, and try to turn it around. But Tim, I have no faith in that whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't either. And you think back to Detroit several years ago where Graham took both races.
Yeah.
Obviously a different, I'm gonna say a different car.
That
It's the
was in
same
that
car, but a
full
different.
downforce, right? Crazy looking Batmobile that they had,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
With the manufactured kits.
Yep.
I just, yeah, like you said, right? That's a totally different car
Yeah.
at this point of the year.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's totally different car. No aero screen, anything like that, but
No.
they just don't have it.
No. Um,
And they came up during race day, but Lundgaard and Harvey, but there's
yeah.
nowhere else to go.
14th for Lundgaard.
We already move up.
Yeah. 15th for Harvey. Tim, Jack was kind of holding up power at the end of this race. The series has no rule for back markers that are not a lap down that require Jack to move over. Is that wrong, or should Jack have moved over on his own?
He should have moved over. Totally
so?
moved over. Their race was done. There was nothing else happening. Even if a yellow came out, there's only 5 laps to go, and I know everybody was expecting one, but
yeah.
So
doesn't matter, right? It wasn't going to change his race. He was going to finish 15th anyway.
Yeah, because you never know when you're going to be in that position that you got somebody following you or chasing you down, and you got a lap car in front of you, and you want the same courtesy. So don't expect it to happen. If I'm Jack Harvey, don't expect it to happen, and I'm in the lead and trying to get around somebody, they're gonna be like, "You did the same thing to me. I'm just gonna stay the course."
I keep weaving this thread in here, and it's totally unintentional, but I like where this storyline is going. Jack moved from Meyer Shank to Rahal Letterman. Gambling. Similar to what we talked about, why would Palou leave Ganassi to go gamble at Arrow McLaren? Why did Ricciardo leave Red Bull to go gamble on Renault? Why did he go gamble on McLaren? Jack gambled here, and right now
it's not paying off.
No, it's mid-season, so to speak, right? Mid-season, so to speak, and he's got just a few chips left here.
Yep.
Where if you look at the Meyer Shank side of the table, a lot of chips over there because those two guys have done well. It's not to say that would have been the same results. I think there's something to be said with the setup and chassis feedback of Simon Pagenaud that helps Meyer Shank. That's probably going to help Andretti going forward when they lose somebody like an Alexander Rossi.
Yeah, for sure.
But at the end of the day, you can't argue with the fact that Shank team is doing better than this team here, and Jack left Shank to go to this team and gambled. So
yeah, you got to be scratching your head if you're Jack, going, "What did I do to make the right decision? How are things going in the team?" Obviously, we don't have to see the inside of it, but
he's got to have his hands up, right? Going, what the hell, right? What are we doing?
He's fully admitted. Graham's fully admitted that their cars do not run like any other cars. They just don't have it. You've talked about something's wrong in the mapping and the computer systems, and they got to flush that
software or something. Who knows? Yeah. So, Graham Rahal, 28th last, miscue in turn 2. You and I saw it, and I was scratching you all over the place. But tag the wall, breaking the right rear corner, game over. Can't fault Graham or anyone on this team for overdriving the car because the car is just plain not there, right? I don't believe it's a driver issue, Tim. I don't believe it's a driver issue for Graham, for Christian, or Jack. I think it's on the team and the team's ability to deliver a car, plain and simple.
I agree.
Foyt, I was surprised to see Kirkwood leading that first practice session. Track's extremely bumpy, which puts an emphasis on dampers, which I don't believe to be the strength of this team. While Kirkwood's time was good, he did have a second set of primary tires that the team did opt to use. I believe this is something he gets as a rookie. Tim, I've been scratching my head on results at Foyt this year, but coming to find out what we talked about earlier in the show is Chevy, not just drivability, but they're contributing to their teams some vehicle dynamics and setup information.
It is Chevy.
Yeah.
It's got to be based on everything we've heard and everybody we talked to. That's what they're saying. And they're not specifically calling out IGA Foyt Racing. They're just calling out the Chevy teams and the uptick and performance on all the teams, and that's got to be it. Totally it.
Yeah.
Because as I mentioned earlier, this is actually the team that was looking for an engineer right before the start of the season.
Yeah. Yeah. I still don't know if they found one. They didn't really tell us, but that's okay. Kellett finished 20th, crashed in practice 2, couldn't line up for qualifying, so he gained some positions there. Tatiana Calderon returns from her, Indy 500 hiatus, finishing 23rd. Kirkwood 24th, crashed out lap 49, cut out by cold tires, hip checked the wall, and game over. You saw that corner crush as soon as he did it. Unforgiving walls in Detroit. Juncos.
Yes, for sure. All right, Juncos. Let's go.
Santucci. Tim, we spent time talking to Ricardo Juncos prior to the morning warm-up. First, I got to say it. What a great guy. Just an absolute great guy. Hard not to be rooting for Ricardo and for this team. He shared with us that he was hoping to put together a 2-car effort for next year. And I hope so. Because I think they're a great team. I think they've done a terrific job this year, but think about what they did with Santucci, getting him up to speed, not looking like a fill-in either, right? He had a true fitted race suit, Juncos brand, everything he needed for Juncos, race suit, sponsor decals, and he had a driver card.
Yeah, the hero card, signed, ready to go.
Oh, so cool with that.
Some of the ladies that were standing by us like, look, these are already signed.
Yes.
It was amazing.
Great job for him. It's the details, right? It's the little things that we talk about. We talk about them at Andretti on occasion. We talk about them at Ray Hall Letterman. It's the details. This team is getting those details, and they're the smallest team on the grid.
Yep. Yeah, Ricardo said they put that suit together in a day. Yeah. So whoever they work with, they put that suit together, and I don't remember what we said. People were pulling at his shoulders saying, maybe it's a little loose in here, or maybe you need some more upper body strength or something in that. But a little bit of that talk was going on. But
can we say what we heard Pappas say to Santucci when we were standing there?
I heard a few things. Be yourself.
He said, no, well, yeah, but he said, I didn't realize that they made this in kid sizes.
Oh, that's right. The driver suit. Well, you got to think Max Pappas is
he's tall, a big guy. Yeah. Much bigger than
big guy.
Yeah. Big guy.
He did mention that.
Yeah.
But you mentioned he was hoping to put together a 2-car effort. I heard he was in the process of making it happen, looking for a driver. It was pretty confident, and I know you say hope is not a strategy. I think there's a full-on strategy there, and they'll come out next year with 2 cars based on our conversation with Ricardo.
Yeah. Definitely. I always say hope because what do they say? We're we're looking to put together a second car next year if we can find the budget.
He never talked about budget, though. He's only looking for a driver.
And what I tell everybody is this. Tim and I are looking to field a 2-car team if we can find a budget.
Yeah. Well, maybe one day we'll be there.
Yeah. That's all I have, Tim, on Detroit. You got anything else?
No, a splendid event. Great. Penske organization put together a great event. The fan interaction zones were awesome. We did find the coffee truck, so thanks to the folks on Twitter for directing Dan to where he could get his 2 pots of coffee that he drinks every day. So that was good. Yeah, that was great. Nothing more to add on my side. I wish there was a fan asking a question because I could, give him an answer. But it was good. I love the skyline of Detroit. Like, it's beautiful.
Yeah. We had a great weekend. Our social media engagement was outstanding. You posted a video on our Instagram, which if you have not looked at it, it is totally worth the minute and a half of finding it on Instagram and watching it. It is amazing. And again,
it blew up fast. Yeah.
All thanks to the folks at Steps Towing. We appreciate you.
Steps Towing. He's definitely got us where we needed to be to get some of that footage. So
yeah.
It was good.
So off to Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. It's a bucket list for me, certainly, but not to be this year. And that's okay. I've been to Indy GP. I've been to Indy 500. And then I spent 4 days at Detroit Grand Prix.
Yeah, I thought you were making an announcement you were going after and going 4 races in a row.
Yeah, can't. We have plans this weekend. So.
All right.
So my beautiful bride who brings me coffee during this show and, refills on occasion and all that, will be celebrating her birthday on Saturday with family. And then on Sunday, we'll be celebrating it with her family. And we have another birthday in the family too, that we'll be celebrating on Sunday. So Mazel tov and happy birthday to everybody.
Yeah, family first for sure.
Yeah. Stories to watch. Going into Elkhart, I just kind of put a few thoughts here. I'm curious to see how you feel about it. Can Penske and the Chevy continue their run? They didn't have anything for Indy, but strong everywhere before and certainly at Detroit.
Yeah,
No thoughts?
uh, no, it'll be interesting to see, right? I think Penske's going to be strong, and I wouldn't bet against them going into Elkhart Lake and doing what they've done for most of the season. They had a little hiatus in the middle of the season so far. If you look at the
Two
in the
races. It
middle.
was the Indy races. It was Indy GP and Indy 500 where they had their hiatus. Otherwise, they're right back.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So
And right back at it.
Chevy on all of them, Pato has the one victory in
Yep.
there. So
You're right.
yeah, so Chevy's gonna be there for sure.
Yeah. Alexander Rossi. Is this a rejuvenated Rossi now that his future is settled?
I'd say yes.
You say two or none?
It's two or none, and
Two
it's
or
going to
none.
be two. And my prediction is
two or
going to be two. So
none.
look out for
I think it's one.
Alexander Rossi and the team. I just think if you
Episode
drive
33, we got to mark it. Two or none.
two or none. If you drive a little like you're in a relaxed state of mind, I think the results will come, and they will for him.
And what of Felix Rosenquist, who is, in my opinion, the next domino to fall in the silly season, I believe. Is he driving in a way, Tim, you think is saving his ride at Arrow?
I don't think I think that decision's been made, unfortunately.
I agree.
And no one can talk about it. And they talked about going to a 3-car team. I think that's still a possibility, but I don't know if Felix is in the
done deal. Just like you said with Juncos. Done deal that Arrow McLaren is going to 3 cars.
I'd like to see him back, but I don't think his career's been in IndyCar has been flashy and something to write home about. And I don't think Arrow would just keep him on. So
wouldn't you love to see somebody other than, Pato O'Ward's a great talent and he'll be a great champion someday. But Arrow McLaren, I feel, is just too quick to pull the trigger on executing these drivers. I'd love to see Felix get another season with somebody like an Alexander Rossi in there as potentially a buffer between, a very quiet, very calculated Felix Rosenquist versus a Pato O'Ward, hair on fire, very high energy and everything else. And Rossi's right in the middle of that. I'd love to see Felix in that car for one more season just to see if that's helpful instead of just keep cutting people loose. Because who are you going to put in there? It's not going to be Palou. You're going to put Renus in there? Palou. I don't know. I'd leave Renus at Ed Carpenter until he stops smashing up cars. And I'm high on Renus, BK.
I know, but then you get the chance of missing out on him. I guess if you got an opportunity to grab him, you grab him now and you set him down and go, hey, this is what we want to see out of you, right? And
or we're going to cut you loose in a year and a half. We're going to start talking about your contract in a year.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is going to screw up his head.
Yeah. So if that happens, does Felix go over to the team that Renus is on? I don't know. I guess, Dana, I'm going to ask you if Felix isn't with Arrow, does someone pick him up?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so.
Yeah. You think he'll still be around? Just okay.
Yeah, I think so. We'll do another silly season team or another silly season episode. If we can find a break in the schedule, Tim. I feel like we've done this every weekend or every Monday for how many weeks now?
Yeah.
We love it, but we need a break, right? We still got things going on.
I'd like to see the McLaren driver in there too, but I don't know if that'll ever happen. But I think
what are you talking about?
Daniel,
that's
the same name as you.
Why would you come here?
He loves.
Why would he come here?
Though. He hangs out here quite a bit.
I don't think that means he wants to come race Indy cars. I think he feels he's got unfinished business in Formula One. You want me to tell you something ridiculous? I think in silly season in Formula One, if Daniel Ricciardo decides he doesn't want to stay for that 3rd year at McLaren, because I believe it's his choice. If Daniel Ricciardo doesn't want to stay at McLaren for that 3rd year, and he walks away, what's Vettel's situation at Aston Martin? right?
idea.
What's Nicholas Latifi's situation at Williams? That might not be a bad idea. He's gambling. He's got nothing to lose at this point.
Yeah.
Right?
Hmm.
He's
Yeah,
got nothing to
all
lose
right.
at this point. Does Mick Schumacher keep a seat at Haas? Or does Haas jettison Mick Schumacher somewhere and say, thank you for playing, but we're going to take Daniel Ricciardo?
Yeah, it's a possibility. Yeah, I think there's some some opportunities there for him.
Yeah,
You
it's
just
not like
mentioned
it's
a lot of them.
completely dry, and then he'll come and drive an IndyCar for McLaren, and I don't see it. He still has some options. Couple of stories here on Road America. Callum Ilott, will he be ready? We know from Ricardo that he's going to see the doctor Tuesday to give us a go or no go on that hand. Possibly we'll see Santucci back in that car, which I think on a course like Road America, look out. I think that kid's he's gonna turn some heads out there because he always does anyway. Speaking of bummed hands, right? Kyle Kirkwood, as you mentioned, you saw it on his Twitter. Significant swelling on his right hand today. I don't know what's happening there, but it didn't look good to me. I don't know if that means he will be able to suit up for Road America, or if Foyt will be in search of a backup driver.
Yeah.
So who would go? Think about that. Who would go and sit in the Foyt car and race at Road America? Tony Kanaan?
Potentially. J.R. Hildebrand.
Oh yeah, you could get JR, right?
Yeah, he's right over there in
Denver.
Denver.
Yeah.
So that would be my
that
would be my thought of who would fill in on that.
Yeah, I think they're high on him, so it makes a lot of sense. That's all I got.
Yeah, I think one more story to watch is Ganassi and just where do they come, and then specifically Scott Dixon, can he continue what he did at Indy in qualifying? Obviously he was caught out in qualifying at Detroit, but was super fast. So will he be there, and will he get into the fast six, which he's been trying to do all season to have some runs up front? So it'll be good to watch that team, just how it plays out here. And as you know, they're always strong. They're dueling for the best team in the paddock. So that'll be good to see as well.
Do you have a fantasy update? I'm trying to pull fantasy up real quick. I guess we got to go, or are we running long?
Yeah, we're probably running a little long. You beat me, I know that much.
Yay! It's all I care about.
So yeah, you beat me. The fans beat us, which is great to see they're beating us. Yeah,
that's so awesome.
But overall standings, I'm still beating you. So, but we're third, fourth in the line, something like that.
Good job, Cart Fan 26 takes the win. I did beat Tim. I beat you by a mile, dude. 107.75 to 79.75. Beat you by a mile.
Yeah, mile. Not on. I don't know what happened. So.
You were Graham, and I was Alexander Rossi.
Yeah,
that's
it.
Hit
the wall.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you as always. Engage with us on social media. Consider becoming a Patreon supporter. If you don't know what that is, click the link below and take a look at what that is. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram. I promise you, Instagram, you will love the video that Tim posted there. Half the world did. And of course, you can follow our videos on YouTube as well. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.
Yep. Take care.